So you're telling me if I step anywhere other than where you want to, we're going to jail?
You step on the driveway, you're going to jail.
This
Take
tyrant.
her. Nope, she's going.
No.
She's going to jail. You are under arrest.
What's up, you guys? Welcome back to Southern Draw Law. My name is James White, criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor, former police officer. Today's video comes to us out of Bellevue, Nebraska, and it was published to a YouTube channel a few days ago called Nathan. It depicts a homeowner being arrested in her own driveway simply for criticizing police and obstructing. Now, I've made some edits for the purposes of our discussion, but you should go over to their channel and view the video in its entirety and give them credit for sharing this interaction. Apparently, the Bellevue police made a traffic stop, and somehow the vehicle ended up backed into this driveway. We don't know what happened before or after, so the whole scene sort of unfolds in front of our videographer's house, and his girlfriend, who's also the homeowner, ends up getting arrested at the end of this traffic stop. According to the information in the video, the original reason for the traffic stop is for failure to dim high beams. So Section 1022.050 of the Nebraska Code says that it shall be unlawful for any person operating a motor vehicle upon passing or meeting another motor vehicle proceeding in the opposite direction to fail to dim such person's vehicle headlamp when such headlamps are lighted on bright or high beam. The code also makes it a violation not to dim your high beams as you approach a vehicle at least 200 feet from the rear. So it would appear that in the state of Nebraska, it is a legitimate reason for a traffic stop for failure to dim your high beams. Let's get into the video and see how this plays out.
You have no jurisdiction on my property over me. And there's no law that says the distance from a traffic stop.
Girls, don't answer any questions.
Just tell them to give you the ticket and go away. For real. You're trying to give me unlawful directives on my own property.
So when my backup officers get here, what I'll do is we're going to search the vehicle and search each of you, okay?
Baby, don't. You
No.
have nothing to talk to him about. She has epilepsy. You need to turn those lights off.
She has a medical condition, epilepsy.
Stop
You're
telling
going
me
to put her into a seizure.
Then do your fucking job the right way.
You're
Putting her at risk. She has a seizure and dies.
my stuff and distract me, I could do this.
So we're recording you,
Okay.
and we're telling you she has a medical condition.
I will call the ambulance and leave right across the street.
So you would rather her get
No, I'm trying
to the
get
point.
it done, but you guys will distract me from doing it.
Turn your lights off. Do you know?
Done certain things first.
Oh, so her health doesn't matter? What's your name and badge number? Name, badge number. Hear you out. You don't have to say it. You guys don't have to do anything. What's your name and badge number?
You get it later.
Oh, so you don't identify? You're one of those tyrants, huh? Jesus. Earn the hate. Hey, Shy. What are you guys, what's the deal? What are you being pulled over for?
I was not speeding, wasn't doing any of that. I'm just driving, and I seen her. I said, "She left the police." And she
What,
started to
like,
fight
what's
her.
your reason? What's the reason for pulling them over? What crime do you think they committed?
Like, that's when I turned my hazard on. I'm like, "We're right behind
I don't have to discuss that with you, sir.
All right. Hey, what crime did he say you guys committed? So, you had your bright lights on, and now he's here to search your car? Road pirate right here. Hey guys, it's gonna be YouTube famous tomorrow.
Yeah.
He has no right to search your car because you had headlights. You can tell him no. How's it going, sir? Name, badge number, please. Thank you.
So I can smell the odor of marijuana, so I'm going to search out the car. Okay. So, since you're the driver, I'll have you step out real quick. We'll do a quick search of you. Just don't be digging in your car, anything like that, okay?
Shy, don't say anything. You got to get out if he asks you to, but you don't have to speak to him. You're a passenger.
You do legally have to get here.
No, you don't.
No, you don't. Shy, you do not. You're a passenger. You know I know the laws, Shy. Been studying them for
Evan,
years.
don't give them anything.
I haven't. I just gave them license, registration, insurance.
All right, don't where you were, where you're going, nothing. None of that. Anything they ask you, they're trying to get you in trouble. Why you gotta put her in the car?
You're detained.
You pulled them over for their brights, and now you smell marijuana? You already are. They're bright lights.
Can you stop talking to me?
No!
I'm trying to talk to
Quit
you.
giving me unlawful orders. You have no jurisdiction over me. Did I commit a crime? Am I detained for standing on my own property? No. You're not my boss.
So basically what starts out as a regular traffic stop for high beams then converts into a drug investigation, and that then transitioned into an arrest for obstructing a peace officer. Assuming that the officer will say that either he encountered the person going the opposite direction, she didn't dim her high beams, or he saw her approach a vehicle from the rear less than 200 feet without dimming her high beams, we probably have a lawful reason for the stop. And we know from our understanding of Rodriguez versus the United States from 2015 that the officer must focus on the mission of the traffic stop itself, and the scope of that investigation is tailored to the thing he stopped them for. And in order for him to divert from the mission of that traffic stop, there has to be reasonable articulable suspicion of a separate crime. Now in this case, you have at least 2 officers on video saying that they smell the odor of marijuana emanating from the vehicle. Marijuana is still ostensibly illegal in Nebraska, so if that's the case, then you have both reasonable articulable suspicion of possession of marijuana as a reason to divert from the original mission of the traffic stop, as well as probable cause to search the vehicle for marijuana.
I'm telling both of you though, you will not leave the grass area.
You can't tell me where I can fucking go.
This is my house.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, if you obstruct my investigation by coming any farther than where the grass is, you will go to jail for obstruction. That is your last and final warning. Both of you.
Yeah. You.
Record me. That's perfect.
I am. You're recording yourself.
I'm telling you that. This is your final warning. If you guys step foot off of your grass onto your driveway or the sidewalk.
So you're telling me if I step anywhere other than where you want to, we're going to jail?
All right, sir.
Okay, you seem like you gave me your name and badge number. He refuses to. What's going on? Why is he trying to tell me where I can and can't be on our property?
It's not necessarily about where you can and can't be on your property.
Yeah.
It's whether or not you're interfering with the police, official police investigation.
Well, he pulled him over for bright lights, so I get that, you know.
Right?
Okay, and they're family members. We told him that she has epilepsy. He said he doesn't care. He'll call an ambulance if she gets in trouble.
Right.
That right there?
Step on my
And
driveway
I'm
now
not really-
because this is my child coming home.
Okay, nope. They can go around. If you step on the driveway, you're going to jail because that's interfering with my investigation. I've already told you.
You're going to lose your job if you try arresting one of us.
That's your final warning. You step on the driveway, you're going to jail.
This
Take
tyrant.
it. Nope, she's going.
No,
She's going to jail. You are under arrest.
and you're going to lose your job. Are you kidding me right now? You see this? They're arresting her. She's on her own property. She stepped on the driveway because this guy got his feelings hurt. Probably got picked on in school. All right, you guys, do you want to be included in the lawsuit with this guy? You can let her go, or are you actually going to go with an arrest for walking on her own property?
You got her? Yep, I got it. So, like I was trying to explain.
Listen, man, I know the laws. I know the Constitution. You want to read the back of my shirt? I know all this. Like,
Have I ever mentioned? We are not.
I've seen this happen 100 million times. I've been like, I know that right there, that's a lawsuit. It's going to go to a lawsuit. I know you guys have qualified immunity, so you don't care.
We actually don't on a lot of things.
Well, this right here, you're if you're going to comply, take her to jail for walking on her property. I mean, what crime did she commit?
Like I was trying to explain to you before.
Okay.
It's
Obstructing,
so interfering.
interfering. So we're standing on our own property.
But here's the deal. Your guys' actions have very clearly taken this officer's attention away from his traffic stop where there is a danger, right? In every
There wasn't
traffic
any
stop.
danger.
Well,
And he's on my property.
there is a long-standing there essentially could be danger, right? And we don't know until we
So you guys are
investigate
scared of everything, basically.
No, that's not what
Shoot
I'm
first, ask questions later. I've seen it a
So,
million
we
times.
have, when we're doing a traffic stop, in order to make sure everybody's safe and everything ends safely like we want it to, right?
He's the one who told you to arrest her, and you listened to him, so that puts you on the lawsuit too.
Okay. But we're just trying to get through this traffic stop.
Okay, so
as good as
she
we
needs
can.
to be taken out of the back of there.
That's not my call. So he's the one who's making the.
He made the
decision.
stop with her,
Right.
nothing to do with her.
Right, and he's the one who's developed the probable cause to place her under arrest.
Nothing to do. Hey, what are you doing?
It's her property. Is she your wife or girlfriend? Or
Girlfriend.
so generally we wouldn't leave it with you. If she says
Okay,
we
we
can,
live together.
right. If she says we can, then we
Can you guys get a supervisor down here?
That is.
He's the supervisor? Are you fucking kidding me?
Call her, Lieutenant.
Yeah, get him down here. You need to let her back out.
The bathroom and come right back out just to let you know.
She can go to the bathroom and stay in there.
Nope, she has to come back
still-
out.
she's
She's a passenger. You pulled him over a driver.
So I don't. Did he articulate to you that he smelled weed in the vehicle?
He said he smelled weed.
Okay,
He pulled him over for their lights.
I can smell weed from the vehicle.
Okay, but
I'm sorry, I don't know who
the passenger has nothing to do with it. You got the driver in the back.
If there's illegal substance in there, she is still detained because we have to determine whether or not the weed that we smell belongs to her or the driver.
So what does her being in the back of a cop car because she stepped on a piece of concrete that she owns?
Like I said, that's a
Can you honestly look at me man to man and tell me that she deserves to go to jail because she stepped on a piece of concrete where you're standing?
Very clearly walking towards a traffic stop.
No, she was not. She stood right behind the car.
She was taking the attention of the officer who was trying to conduct the traffic stop safely.
He can look at them and do whatever he wants. Us standing here, is there a law that says how close we can be? I mean, I don't know about you, but it seems like he'd be okay.
There's no law that specifically says
you got bulletproof vests, you got guns, however many are here, and you're scared of a woman standing on her driveway?
It has nothing to do with whether or not we're scared.
You just said you're worried about safety, to everybody's safety.
That's different than
so how did she pose a threat?
Because she walked towards the traffic stop.
Hey, do you mind giving me your name and badge number, sir?
Talking to me?
Yeah, if you would.
Officer McGuire, 304.
Thank you.
Mine's marked 331.
Oh, you're finally gonna say it now, huh? Being a smart ass earlier, and now you're finally gonna tell me because everyone else did their jobs the right way.
I'm gonna tell you later too, but I'll just get out of the way so you don't have to ask me again.
Mm-hmm. Well, when we see you in court, are you guys gonna let her back out of the car?
No, she's going to jail for obstruction.
Okay, well you're getting a lawsuit.
Okay.
You can't arrest somebody on their own property.
I can if they're obstructing my investigation, sir.
She didn't obstruct anything. You got butt hurt. This is ridiculous. Yeah, well, I mean, you guys are stomping all over her constitutional rights. I mean, her freedoms. Because she's on her property. I could see if you guys are out on some other people's property or something like that, but she's on her property.
And I understand your position on that.
We can go anywhere we want on our own property just because he's butthurt because somebody knows the law and talk back to him.
And
like, this is like classic. Like, oh my God. I see this daily. People go and you get somebody like that, and then you were decent coming up, but you, rather than be the good cop and tell the bad cop he's f***ing up, you put her in the back of the car. Like, are there no good cops anymore? Yeah, you know you can't answer that. You're laughing about it.
I'm not laughing.
You are smiling. No, you're
I'm
right.
Smiling just as much as I am.
Yeah, because this is ridiculous. You guys arrested my girlfriend. Her kids are inside. Her children are inside. And you're going to take her to jail because he's a pussy.
So up until the point where the officer gets very deep into his feels and decides that he's going to arrest this homeowner for, let's be honest, contempt of cop, obstructing on her own property, everything they've done up to this point is pretty much legally defensible. But the issue that arises here is whether an officer has the ability or dominion over everything that he sees in conducting a traffic stop. Like, can he decide how far he wants to extend the scene of his traffic stop such that he can control and give lawful orders about all of the area, especially when it infringes on someone else's private property? So basically, the cops argue here that they're arresting this property owner for obstructing, essentially because his theory is that she's distracting him and hindering his ability to complete his investigation. So we need to look into the Nebraska code to see what obstructing actually means under the law. Obstructing a peace officer. A person commits the offense of obstructing a peace officer when, by using or threatening to use violence, force, physical interference, or obstacle, he or she intentionally obstructs, impairs, or hinders the enforcement of the penal law or the preservation of the peace by a peace officer or judge acting under color of law or her official authority, or a police animal assisting a peace officer acting pursuant to the peace officer's official authority. So that's pretty convoluted, so we need to go a little further down, and you'll see some notes at the bottom of these statutes that talk about cases. So there's a case mentioned where interference is defined, and it's State v. Farron, and it says interference is defined as the action or fact of interfering or intermeddling with a person, etc., or in some action. Obstacle, according to the same case, means something that stands in the way or that obstructs progress, literal and figurative, a hindrance, impediment, or obstruction. So again, the theory here is that his progress in completing his traffic stop was obstructed, his inability to focus on the traffic stop and his need to focus on her. Now, the case, State v. Farron, that the code cites here is really not factually similar to this case in any way. And before Farron, there was a case called State v. Yaron, where Yaron in the case is the defendant who essentially was charged with obstruction because a police officer wanted to write him a citation for a municipal code related to his dog being at large, and he refused to give him the ID. And the court actually threw out that conviction and said, look, his refusal to give you his ID is not obstructing in this particular case. So a few years later, the court gets State v. Farron, and that was a case where there was a domestic, and there was another party to the domestic that had a relationship with him, and Mr. Farron had left the scene, and the police were outside the residence talking to the other party, the domestic, when Farron drove by. The police ended up going out, stopping him, trying to detain him for an investigation, and he physically resisted them. Like, he wouldn't get out of the car when they ordered him to. He refused to comply with any commands. It was much different. And so the court in Farron actually affirmed the conviction, but that's where the physical act rule came into play. In order for you to be convicted of obstruction, you need to do something physical. Now, the issue of trying to control a third-party bystander is a novel one, especially one where they're on their own property and just filming and giving the police a hard time. It doesn't look to me like Nebraska courts have dealt with that particular issue, but I think they've left us enough breadcrumbs to try to figure out how they might decide it. While you might be tempted to place your focus on the physical act rule in Farron, I would ask you to consider that we don't even need to get to that element, because I don't think we have an obstruction here at all. If I'm prosecuting this case as the district attorney, I'm going to sit this sergeant down and ask him some questions, and I'm going to need for him to explain to me what part of his investigation was obstructed. What was he not able to do due to the defendant's conduct? And he's probably going to say that he was distracted. That's not enough for me. And that's partly because I believe his distraction was a choice. Further, I'm going to need him to explain how her standing 3 feet to the left in the grass, he's able to do his job. Her standing 3 feet to the right in the concrete with an officer within an arm's reach, he's not able to do his job. Then I'm going to need him to explain why the officer standing right beside her within arm's reach was incapable of controlling her and keeping her out of his investigation, why that same officer didn't find it necessary to take her under arrest if she was actually obstructing. And then I'm going to need to know how he plans on articulating her intent to do anything at all to his traffic stop when she clearly told him that somebody was pulling up to the house trying to deliver her child in the driveway that he was blocking with his traffic stop, and her intention was to cross the driveway, not stand in it or bother his traffic stop, but to go get her child from the person that was arriving at their home. Finally, I'd have to remind him that the Criminal Procedure Code of Nebraska says under 29-422 that it is the public policy of the state of Nebraska that misdemeanors are to be cited to court in lieu of continued custody to the extent possible. And then I'd watch him flounder around as he tried to explain why it was necessary to arrest a concerned family member on her own property and physically take her to jail from her house, if not for the sole purpose of punishing her for daring to question his authority. And then I would dismiss the case. My closing argument in this case is that this is kind of what you get when you start to arbitrarily try to acquire dominion and control over everything around you when you're doing a traffic stop or when you're on a scene. See, police officers have choices, and the choices are you're either going to give directives related to things that you don't have a legal right to control, or you're not. And the problem with directives is that you have to be willing to act on them if somebody doesn't follow them. And so when you say, you have to do this, well, that comes with two choices for you. If the person does it, you might be in a situation where you didn't have the lawful authority to make them do it, and then you violated their rights. If they don't do it, you have to decide whether you're going to force them to do it, and again, you might find yourself in a situation where you don't have the legal authority to do that, or you're going to let them get by with it, in which case they are not going to do what you say because they know that you're not going to back it up when you tell them you're going to do something. And so it's really important as police officers that you don't give directives about things that don't matter, and you don't start making arbitrary rules or drawing arbitrary battle lines with people when it has nothing to do with your actual investigation. We see time and time again these guys get into these like pissing battles with people that really in the grand scheme of things are not worth the fallout. There's nobody who could convince me there's a discernible difference in this lady's ability to interfere with his stop in the grass and her ability to interfere with his stop in the driveway. He just arbitrarily decided to draw a line, and then when she crossed it, he decided she was going to jail. He wasn't reasonable, in my opinion, because he didn't anchor her conduct to anything that was related to his ability to do his job or the traffic stop or anything like that. His only argument was that her conduct was causing him to be distracted and he couldn't focus on the driver. Well, the problem with that is that we're not talking about a case where he's out in the middle of the road in the middle of the night by himself. That's a different situation. He's got multiple backup officers. One of them is 5 feet from her and can reach out and grab her if she starts to cause a problem. Furthermore, if she was a problem, running her mouth at him and he was distracted, then why wasn't she subject to arrest when she was giving the driver and passengers directives, when the videographer was communicating with him during the stop, and they were both generally giving him a hard time? Well, the issue is that he thought he knew the case law enough to know that verbal wasn't enough, so he drew a physical line thinking they might cross it and then he might get an opportunity to arrest him. You can tell that he sort of grew more indignant as the traffic stop progressed because he didn't want to tell him who he was and all that stuff. In my opinion, an order that's not directly anchored to your ability to conduct the stop is arbitrary and unlawful, and it's born entirely out of ego, especially where you have other officers on the scene to make sure that you can do your job without interference. For all these reasons, I think the charge won't stick. I believe it's obvious that this arrest was for contempt of cop, and I think he's going to have a hard time explaining why he's the sergeant, he's the supervisor in a position of leadership, and he also lacks the basic ability to de-escalate what is ultimately a relatively simple situation. This thing wasn't complicated. It was a traffic stop with kids with a little bit of weed and concerned family members that were running off at the mouth at him, which, by the way, is on their property and a protected First Amendment activity of redressing your government. Just as an afterthought, the person operating the camera makes a bunch of statements about how the police have no jurisdiction over a person on their property unless they've committed a crime. And I'm not trying to give him a hard time. Maybe he'll watch this video and have a better understanding of how this works, but that's not true. Police can respond to a 911 call at a person's home, or any home for that matter, and control everyone on the scene. They can execute a search warrant on a home, find no evidence of crime, arrest no one, and secure everyone on the scene. They can come to your house and execute an arrest warrant, and they can secure other people that are in the house on the scene. They can detain people for investigation on their own property without having probable cause to make an arrest. Now, in fairness to him, I think what he was actually trying to say is that if all I'm doing is standing here on my property, redressing my government, filming, and making sure that you don't turn this into a police brutality situation, you have no right to tell me where to stand or direct my movements. And for the most part, I agree with him. But we'll kind of have to see how the trial court handles this situation and whether the district attorney in that area sees it the same way I do. That's all for this one, guys. Please remember to like and subscribe and leave me a comment. Tell me what you think of this arrest. Check out the other videos on the channel. Leave me a comment on there as well. Until I see you again, take care. Always film your interactions with the police and keep your evidence to yourself.